the smell that of the wild around where the sphere to have morning on and to have some to have some to have field and also get to know one another. So in camp, and I hope that's reflecting for all of you, the viewers on the drives. Please send them through. On Twitter you would hashtag Safari Live, and on email you'd send it through to questions@wildearth.tv. So send those questions through and we'll do our best to answer them. Well, sounds like Caden just say good morning to you, so you're going to cut across and hopefully he's got something exciting for you to see. We'll catch up a little bit later.
Good morning everyone, just like to welcome you to Wild Safari Live. I know Scott's out on the other side of the reserve. We've just come around to Game Reserve in South Africa. If you've never been on Wild Safari Live, it's welcome aboard for the first time or second time. And if you're a regular safari participant with us, hi, and great to see you again. We had an amazing day yesterday, really fantastic day with those wild dog, and it feels like it's going to be another good day today. Just let me turn my Game Drive channel down. When I say the Game Drive channel, it's another radio send that we have in our ear that connects us with all around the reserves with all the different guides. So sometimes that's in your ear and it's quite loud and it's a bit difficult to talk to you. It's really interactive. This is what Wild Safari is all about. It's really important that you interact with us. You can send us tweets at hashtag Safari Live, or you can send us questions at wildearth.tv, and we'd be more than happy to answer as many as we possibly can for you. The wild dog yesterday, wow, I went to bed last night thinking about every single moment that we experienced yesterday, and it was a beautiful, beautiful day. Today we've got a lovely breeding herd of elephant here. Fantastic, probably about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can probably pair an elephant in here. They're a little bit hard to see now, but I want to just carry on parallel to them. Because there's no need for us to go off-road. They're elephants in the bush. I think that's what's lovely about watching them eat. They just trundle along, roots, leaves, bark, seed pods, whatever it may be. And this particular individual's got a bit of a taste for the roots of these plants that she's eating. But the other thing is there's another animal down a bit further to the left, Andrew, that's like pushing over a tree at the moment. And then they're all doing different things. You've got animals eating, you've got this one here, she's dust bathing as well, so lots of different things going on, which is great to see. Very, very comfortable with us as well. That's one of the most important things, I think, when you're in the presence of elephant, is just to be nice and calm, judge their behaviour, and just sit. vegetation is a little bit thick here, but they're probably going to move around us, and I'm going to let them dictate the moves. They'll give us really obvious indicators whether they're not happy with our location. So we'll always adhere to the rules and regulations of the Elephant Society. But the animals, I always use this word habituation. The animals in these reserves, these protected areas, have been habituated to vehicles, and they know that we don't present a danger to them. So everyone's happy. They've just changed direction now. I thought they were going to go this way, but I'm going to reverse up a little bit. The little youngster just behind this tree here is quite fun. You might have a look at him. Just glance at Andrew and just tell me I have an elephant behind me, which is always a bit of a hazard.
That's good.
Okay. See if we can approach these two here nicely. Okay, my boy. It's okay, my boy. My boy. No problem. We'll just let you be here, mate, for a second. Have a look at that female just there. She's lovely. I'll just roll back a bit more for you. Oh, she's moving into shot now. I think she is. You can see how she just pushed her youngster on there. I can't really, I can turn around. That's probably the best bet. If I turn around, you get a better view of this. They're very comfortable with us. Matriarch just said let's move to the others, and she pushed her baby on, which was quite kind of nice to see. But I don't want to split this herd, of course. It's okay, my boy. It's okay. Really beautiful, lovely light coming through. There's a lot more of them actually down there in front of us. I'm just going to roll down here. Nice and quiet. Okay. Right, my girl. We'll just sit for a second. She just gave a little bit of a head shake there, just to say, okay, just stay where you are. So we'll do that for her. So just to give you a nice little sort of sensory feel and tone of what we're in at the moment. It's about 15 degrees, 15 degrees Celsius, about 56, 58 Fahrenheit. Got that beautiful golden light coming through those trees there. We've also got a beautiful smell, and I always like to tell you about the smell of the bush. There's a smell of elephant, obviously, and that is a really sweet smell. Lovely sunlight coming through there. Really sweet smell of elephant, and it's sort of a it's a definite unique smell, but it's not the smell of necessarily their dung, etc. It's the smell of them themselves. They have a really beautiful. Again, I use this word quite often when I'm describing animals, but it is a sweet smell. It's not a smell that's hard to cope with, that's for sure. It does mix in with the bush very, very nicely, and it's sort of, you could compare it to probably a little bit like a cattle smell mixed with herbs, and I say that again as well. It sounds a bit weird, but there's no real other way to describe it if you want to compare it to our worlds that we live in all around the world. We all come across a farm sometimes in our life, and you probably know the smell of horses or the smell of cattle or the smell of sheep or goats. Those sort of animal smells they've got something unique about them. And then a lot of wild animals have got kind of a lovely tone about it that smells a bit like a herb, when you go into a herb garden. So it all might sound a bit strange to describe like that, but it's really trying to give you a little bit of a notion of how it feels where we are right now. The sunlight's just really beautiful and gentle coming through the trees there. Just going to wander down a little bit further. There's a real young one down here, and this may be the herd that we saw a couple of days ago. You just stayed right where you are there, Andrew. That's fantastic. You got little beast. Some big females in this herd. Beautiful. And there's a real young one as well, just following up. Wait till you see this little guy cross the road. Just cross back, mate. Doesn't want to get left behind there. Really lovely, just moving across the road, feeding as they go. They've probably been down to Twin Dams for a drink. There's a couple more down here as well, still yet to cross. I might just move down a little bit closer so we can enjoy that. Well, got a lovely question from Terry in Santa Ana, and if it's the Santa Ana I'm thinking about in California, I'm thinking it is Santa Ana in California. I've been there before and it's a beautiful place. So Terry, lovely to have you on board. Welcome to Wild Safari Live. And Terry's question is, what's the most unique or unusual behaviour I've ever seen in elephant? Well, there's a lot of stories about elephant. Everyone's got some when you work in the bush and all over Africa. I've seen some incredible behaviour with helping their youngsters. I remember one time in Uganda there was an elephant that the little baby looked really ill for some reason. I don't know what was going on. It was in Queen Elizabeth National Park, and when I'm looking away from camera, I do apologise. I'm just keeping my eye on these elephants, and it's very important not to become complacent around elephant and just respect them, but also know what's going on all around you. So this little baby was quite sick, and he was trailing behind, or she was trailing behind the herd, and the mother kept on coming back and giving it a nudge and keep on pushing it over, and they were on a mission. They were travelling for a very long distance. The water, the food supply in Uganda is pretty consistent because of the rainfall, and so there wasn't an issue with drought or anything like that. But this little baby was really struggling, and he kept on lagging behind and slowing down, and we sat there and watched for hours. And it was pretty heart-wrenching stuff to watch, because there's as I always go back to this connection that we have with elephants, is this care for their young, and he kept on coming back and giving it a nudge, and it took a while for us to sort of decipher whether she was the matriarch or not. Excuse me. But what she did do is came back and she stayed with that baby. It got to a location where there was a bit of shade, and she stayed back, and she just brought the herd back to stay with this baby. And they just stood for longer than we could stay there. And it was a really incredible behaviour to see that she was trying her best to keep this little baby, but she had the rest of the herd she was responsible for as well. So that was an unusual thing. I've also seen elephants come very, very close to us. I was walking with a mate of mine who's a professional trails guide in South Africa, just like Stefan, and we were in a location just outside of Sabi Sands called Timavati. Magnificent location, beautiful reserve as well. And we were walking and watching elephant very, very closely, but we had a great position. They were down in a waterhole, and we were up on an embankment, beautifully located. But what we didn't know and we didn't expect, and you can't predict these things, was another herd came from right behind us, and we were sitting and we just didn't move. And the matriarch came up within about 10-15 metres of us, and it was probably the closest encounter I've ever had with elephant on foot. And we saw this elephant look at us, and just the matriarch decided whether the situation was of danger or not. They were obviously well habituated to humans as well, and particularly humans on foot, but she had a very young calf under her belly, and she stood there and just stood tall over us for about, it felt like about 10 minutes, it was probably only about 10 seconds, and it was a pretty heart-stopping moment, I have to tell you. But I don't know how she decided that we weren't a threat, but we were sitting as well. We weren't that sort of normal human shape. We were sort of sitting behind a little bush. She knew that we were there. She checked us out. The whole herd stood directly behind her, motionless, until she gave the word. And she just dropped her head and shook it and walked on. And the rest of the herd followed. And none of the herd paid any attention to us. So there's moments like that that you really do remember in your elephant sort of history. And I'm sure Stefan and Scotty and everyone else have got as many or better stories, but they are extraordinary, Terry. They're an extraordinary species that we all have a tendency to connect with. Let them get on their merry way. A great question, Terry, and thank you very much. My friend. Got a question from Lynn in Toronto. It's a lovely bit of sunburst through that shot there, Andrew. Lynn, welcome aboard. What a great city Toronto is too. That is a fantastic part of the world, and I love your city big time. I've been there several times and never get enough of Toronto. We have a situation with elephant that they I don't know of any other ungulate, which is a hoofed animal, that has the mammary glands in between the front legs. It's very unique. You find it an incredibly difficult position. You look at it and you think, how can a little baby suck from there? But it's a beautiful thing to watch. You can see he lifts his trunk right up around, and he will suckle from that mother's mammary gland there. And there's a lot of females in there that had full glands, full of milk. And that's the only ungulate or hoofed animal that I know that has them between the front legs. It's a great question. Thank you. Sam, I'll have a look around and we'll come back to you. I'm going to cross over to Scotty and see what he's up to. See what he's up to. We'll see you just now.
Welcome back, everyone. And from the ginormous elephants you've been enjoying with Hayden, you've come across to myself and Viam with these small birds. Now, they've just decided to disappear into the longer grass, and this is where they spend their time feeding. They're a bird called a crested francolin, and the nice thing about winter is that as it starts to become colder in the morning, we often get spoiled with good sightings of birds as they are more relaxed and, I guess, colder. Maybe not necessarily more relaxed, but certainly colder and less inclined to move. So you can find themselves sunning themselves. And the sightings will certainly get better, and we'll also be able to see. Interestingly enough, we've heard a few more elephants. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to show you a few more elephant bulls. There haven't been too many on the property over the last few weeks, but I did see one yesterday. And who knows, maybe this is the one. It's phenomenal how well elephants can conceal themselves, or they blend into the environment despite their size. So we're just going to stop momentarily here and listen for a moment. Listening can be one of our greatest tools, and it is often very important and does pay dividends to just stop and listen. And I've just heard the crack of a branch. Now we're going to try and find a way in to where the audio of these breaking branches is coming from, and it's certainly not going to be the first time Viam's off-roaded with myself. We've spent hours working together over the last 5 months, and we've built up a great connection, so we understand what to do and when to do it when working with one another. And like I said earlier, it's so great to have him back after he's taken a few weeks' leave. Well, it's getting quite thick where I can hear this elephant, but it's certainly worth trying to get a little bit closer. And we'll continue to drive, get closer to covering ground and therefore you're not going to find animals. That's a dangerous situation to get into, and it's better to rather move slowly through this vegetation and listen and look and read into as much of the signs that are available to you. These signs obviously vary on a daily basis, and we just basically have to use whatever signals we get from Mother Nature. I've just heard the elephants again. It sounds like it's right in front of us. Just heard a gentle break of a branch. Just got a question through from Catherine, all the way in Texas. And while I answer this question, I'll stop again and try and fine-tune exactly where this elephant's hiding. Good morning, Catherine, and thanks so much for sending your question through. Catherine's interested to know if there's a way for us to be able to know how many elephants will frequent the Sabi Sands Reserve. And for the new viewers, it's important for me to quickly mention that even though we are part of a private reserve, 65,000 hectares in size, we are open to the Kruger National Park, which is 3 million hectares in size. So we are a mere dot on a massive, massive ecosystem. And the wonderful thing about it is that there's no fences between us and the Greater Kruger National Park. So there's free flow of animals. And animals like elephants, who do not have territories, will move huge, huge distances and are not bound by territory. That makes it very difficult for us to know the numbers of the animals coming in and out of the reserve. So sadly, we don't have any exact numbers. There may be some information that is available from collared elephants, but that won't give us a realistic number of how many animals we are seeing. Because the animals don't have, or the elephants don't have set territories, it is always interesting to monitor their movements and notice increases in either the breeding herds or the bulls. At the moment there's a few breeding herds around, which is great, and it's the breeding herds that will hopefully lure the men in when the ladies are in season. Jim, you haven't heard anything for a while, huh?
A little bit.
Let's creep a little bit further forward. Failing this, we may need to leave this stealthy elephant and go and look for something else. I know it does get very thick as we head further down into this gradual valley. And I was hoping he was going to be on the fringe, which is just about finishing now where we are. He just broke another branch. It's a pity the vehicle was running, because it certainly does muffle the audio. But I think I've got an idea of where it was. We are in the wrong place here. I don't think we're going to be able to swing through that little gap, so I'll reassess my routes. Just to let everyone know, as we do drive off-road through this vegetation, we know which trees we should and shouldn't drive over, and there's a couple of reasons for knowing which trees are the ones you want to drive over and not. Because some are very slow growing hardwoods that would snap if we drove over them, but the majority are very soft and will simply spring back up as we've passed by. So we're causing very little harm to the vegetation, and this reserve has been operating as a photographic safari destination since the 1960s, and people have been off-roading and spending time with animals with no adverse effects. Otherwise we certainly wouldn't be able to be enjoying it 50 years later, or more now, I guess 60 years, 65 years later. I often think back to the people who founded these reserves and were pioneering enough and adventurous enough to buy land and look after it so that we can all enjoy it. Well, now here we go. So what we can see in front of us is some more evidence that there's a elephant around, and judging by the size of those large soccer balls of dropping, you could say, it looks to me like it's the property of an elephant bull. Female, or it could be that the elephant bull is trailing a breeding herd that would have passed by here a little bit earlier. We'll continue to search closely. But in thick vegetation like this, you don't want to be crashing around too much and interfering with what the animals are doing. Good morning, Tom from the Netherlands. Tom is interested to know whether elephant bulls will ever kill young elephants or female elephants. And in a normal environment or normal ecosystem, the chance of that happening is very, very slim. And the reason for that is when elephants are exposed to a proper upbringing in a completely natural environment, they will be less likely to be boisterous and troublesome as they grow up. However, you do get some small reserves that are fenced in and will have a small population of elephants that may have been rescued or rehabilitated, brought from other areas of higher risk to them. They are animals that are poached for their ivory, and in those smaller reserves where they don't get a proper education and proper exposure to other herds of elephants, you may find young bulls becoming troublesome and aggressive, and there they may kill other elephants, but I've never heard of it. I've never actually heard of an elephant killing another elephant. I certainly have seen footage and heard stories of elephants killing other animals like rhino or buffalo when they get into altercations, but again, that is often in areas where the reserves are micromanaged and fenced in, or an area in times of drought and extreme hardship where animals may be competing for a water source. It's a great question though, Tom, and I'd be interested to know if anybody has heard of elephants killing other elephants in any scenario. And if you do know of a story, please feel free to send it through, and we can share that with everyone. And to send through any of your comments or thoughts, we really do appreciate not only your questions but also your comments and updates on scenarios like the one we've just been chatting about. And thank you so much to everyone who said the kind words of welcome to Djuma as well as myself, and we are loving being back out here. As great as it is having Hayden and Pizza around, it would be a lie if I said I haven't been a little bit jealous of all the time they've been getting to spend out in the bush. And like anything in life, I guess it's good to have a little break, and now that I've been away from it for a while, it's a very good feeling to be back in the saddle. Well, the questions really are coming through this morning, and thanks again for that. Another one's just come through from Deb in Ohio. Good morning and welcome on the Sunrise Drive, Deb. Deb is interested to know, how old will elephants live to in the wild? And I'm sure it varies greatly. And with any figure of weights of animals, longevity of animals that you do read in, and even behavior of animals that you do read in textbooks, will vary for obvious reasons. It's just like saying how old will a human live for. It's going to vary greatly on many different, and there are many different variables. But around 60 years, so a very long time, Deb, and that will probably give you a clue as to how old I am roughly. Okay, well, while myself and Djuma continue searching for whatever we can find, we're going to give up on the elephants that were in the very thick vegetation around us. But let's go and see what Hayden's up to, and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Just going to turn up and have a look at Twin Dams now. You might wonder why the name Twin Dams when there's only one of them. There used to be two, one on the other side of the road, and it has water no longer. But they still kept the name Twin Dams. I always like to come down here this time of the morning and just have a little bit of a look. And also through this beautiful little drainage line. Now, if anyone doesn't know what a drainage line means, it's a term that's used in southern Africa about where water congregates from different slopes or different angles from the land into one area, normally a sandy, dry riverbed, and sometimes you'll hear people refer to it as a drainage line. But if there's no mammals here or anything else, there's normally some nice birds down here. It's a bit quiet, but that's okay. We can go and have a little bit of a look. We'll just pull up onto the dam wall. Not a great deal. There's a little Egyptian goose over there, a couple of hornbills, excuse me, flying off. The Egyptian goose found throughout Africa, quite a bolshy sort of a bird, quite a bit of a bully, really. They do keep a lot of other birds out of the area. Normally here in a pair, so I don't know where the other one is, but yeah, they can be quite abrupt birds, but you can always, it's a quintessential African sound, and when you do hear them, you just do think of Africa, that's for sure. You got a good picture of it just there. I'll just play you the call. I'm just using my app, so just whilst you're here and looking at the bird. Now he's probably looking over here going, now that Land Rover sounds like an Egyptian goose. It's a bit strange. But yeah, that's the call. It is a quintessential African sound. But as I said, a little bit bold in their behaviour. But yet again, a fantastically interesting animal. Just sitting here for a couple of minutes just to see what goes on. One thing I can see, I might just jump out of the vehicle just to grab something for you because it's it's a really nice fresh one. So please bear with me. I'm just going down to pick up this elephant bolus. It's not as fresh as I would have liked, but just to give you a little, I'll just come around to the front of the vehicle. This is a nice spot to look at this, and you know, dung is everything really. It's a way for us to know what's been here. It's a way for us, if you're in when I used to be a dung specialist. It was when I was a zookeeper, and that's because you can tell so much from your animals' dung. You can tell whether it's healthy or whether it's sick, etc. But it's a really good way just to have a little look at the inefficient digestive system of the elephant compared to some other species. I'm just trying to find another bit of dung here from something else. When we go along, I'll try and pick up different droppings for you to give you a little bit of a comparison. But compared to a ruminant, which is an animal that's got several chambered stomachs, which we've talked about many times before. But just to recap, if you've just joined us, a ruminant is a very, very efficient digester. All the animals from that was an elephant bolus, or a piece of elephant dung, and I just wanted to give you a little. I just saw it down there and it looked quite fresh. It's not as fresh as I thought it was when I got to it, but it's still quite moist inside, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of a quick chat, because as you're driving around, you need to look at some of these things in that sort of bush newspaper, or what the bush gives you as a bit of a hints and a script of what's going on or what happened last night. And ever so quickly, just a reminder that all the hooved animals, or the hoofed animals, are very, very efficient feeders, hugely efficient. They have the ability to regurgitate their food and eat it over again. And we talked about this the other day, but for those who have just joined us, just a quick recap. That is a very efficient digestive system. They have the ability to break down cellulose, which is very difficult for organisms like us or mammals, but for those ruminants, fantastic. Elephant, on the other hand, very inefficient system for the animal, the size of the bulk of the animal, so they have to consume vast amounts of vegetation. And you just want to see the inefficiency. You can tell by their feces, and it's a really great way to have a look. There's lots and lots of stick. I think, oh goodness me, he's touching elephant dung. This is plant matter. There's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing bad about this. Even the smell, it's got quite a sweet smell. It sort of smells a little bit like cross between hay and I'd say like a wheat germ or a bran or something like that we consume. So it's far from a bad smell. But on the other hand, not going on the smell factor, but this is buffalo feces or buffalo dung, and much finer, much. I couldn't even show you on camera probably how fine that is, but it's like a dust. It's like you can break that up and it's just like a fine dust, and that's because that food has been chewed over so many times, and it has been getting the most amount out of nutrition it possibly can out of it. So it's just a real little hint about the two different dung types, and also why they are efficient, why they have to eat so much, and etc., which all goes back to the animal's behavior, and why we see elephants feeding for so many hours of the day, whereas buffalo have a tendency to eat and then maybe ruminate, which is that chewing over that cud in the corner of their cheek. Our dung lecture is now over. There will be more, my friends, there will be more. We might have to have a little dung quiz at some point. I think that's on the cards. We all like a good dung quiz, don't we, Andrew?
That's it, who done it?
Ah, Andrew's just coined it. How good is that? Who dung it?
Yeah, Tara's been using that.
Ah, right, I'm stealing it off Tara. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I will never take the credit for that, that's for sure. She's a fantastic person. Right, I'm just going to plug myself back in. And once we do that, we're away. I just did hear a couple of alarm calls up the way there. So whilst we were dealing with that technical loop, we're just going to go back up. Just push a little bit of elephant dung in my ear there. Just do a little reverse here on the dam wall because it's a little bit tricky. I don't want to lose my cameraman. I've done it again. I've left little bits of elephant dung all over the bonnet, and I tell you what, I guarantee you, I can tell you who's going to be eating that. It'll be me. I just want to go back now and just try and figure out where that alarm call was. But yeah, all those sorts of things, folks, it's just little bits of information that you start to build your picture of the bush. You build that imagery around, you understand why, not just why an animal's feeding off a particular tree or shrub or grass, but you understand the digestive system and why that is. And me being a bit of a... my job was to pick up animal feces for about 10 years, so I do have a bit of a hobby, I suppose you could say, of looking at animal dung. I mean, if you talk to Steph will probably elaborate on it on a much different level, because he uses that sort of thing in the bush on foot on huge, many different occasions. He would use that to build his picture of what's going on with whoever or whatever he's tracking. Yeah, he's an amazing guy, Steph, and I'm really looking forward to working with him and learning as much as I can from him as well. It's all about sharing information as well. It's really important stuff. You learn from each other, you swap stories, you show each other little ideas. It's great. Just don't know where that was. It was over this direction. Just going to take a drive along here now. Just going to bumble around this area and see what we bump into. I haven't heard anything on the radio for quite a while. I'm just going to turn it back up a little bit again. It's a bit of a quiet morning all round. We did have that lovely elephant encounter first thing, but I suppose this is a good time while we're just driving along here to explain to you the beauty and the sort of the magic about what this is all about. Why do we do this? That's a question that I always ask. Why do we want to come out and see animals? What is in us as human beings that make us go to all this trouble, put all this equipment on the vehicles and go out and do this every day? There's got to be something within us as human beings that fascinates us that much that will make us do it. Now, I love that story and I love that concept of, like, I can't actually put my finger on what it is, but I think if you go back thousands, tens of thousands of years, there's a connection with the outdoors, there's a connection with the wilderness that we've all had back in our past, and I think it's still there. I think sometimes we have that sort of fear of the bush or the fear of the unknown, and that is the lack of knowledge, and that's all fear is. So I totally understand that. One would gain the knowledge that a big predator can actually cause some rather serious damage to a human being. So we prepare ourselves for that. But once you start to study animals, you start to study how they work and their behavior, you can start to become part of their environment. You obviously have to show huge respect. You have to make sure you learn about the distances and those sorts of things. But in essence, the whole point of what I'm trying to say is, Wild Safari Live is probably the most incredible journey that you can ever get on. It's one of the most fantastic sort of projects or delivery that I've ever worked with, and I just wanted to share with you my excitement of being out here. I come from all different parts of the world when I come here, and I've got to get back in the saddle, learn to ride the horse again, get familiar with the roads and the trees and the birds and everything. But once you start to get into a bit of flow, and Pete calls it flow, and I love that because it is. You start to switch off. You don't have to think to, oh gosh, is that camera, is everything, is this on, is that. You just go and talk to you as my friends, talk to you on my vehicle, share some stories, and it's just a great thing to be doing, and I'm a little bit happy. We come this valley. Before I do, I might just cross over to Scotty, because it is a bit of a quiet morning, but you know what, on those quiet mornings it's really important to stop at the smaller things as well, and if you're looking for big cats all the time and you're not finding them, you can't miss all the beautiful other things, you know, all the ants.
Welcome back, everyone. And here we have some impala. The male that you can see in shot, well, there's actually two males. There's a 6-month-old male, roughly, on the right, with the very small horns, and a much larger mature male, probably around 4 or 5 years old, at least, for territorial and mating rights. And we're not quite in the full swing of the rut yet. It's preempted by the first full moon in May quite often, and we're approaching that. We're just a few days away. And over the last few weeks we've been noticing an increased testosterone and level of excitement with the male impalas, and I'm hoping that this male will get excited and try and... Sorry, I've just kept quiet there because I saw an Inyala bull running off, and I'm not sure what would have caused it to run off. And you may notice all the impala looking in that direction. They also heard the Inyala. It's a bark-like alarm call that the Inyala will let out. So that doesn't mean to say it didn't run away from a predator. I have occasionally seen Inyala specifically not actually let out an alarm call when they have seen a predator. Predators will certainly be aware of the easier hunting opportunities associated with impala when they're rutting, because the men run around like crazy beasts with very little on their mind other than fighting off other males and corralling and herding females to keep them on their patch of turf. And it is while they are running around like this with only mating really in mind that they can often find themselves either running into a leopard or being so caught up in a battle of the horns that a leopard can literally walk right up to them without them even knowing that it's approaching. So in the coming weeks I can almost guarantee you that we will be seeing some fully grown male impala hoisted up into the marula trees by a leopard. It's interesting how throughout a year there's different periods where certain impala will be targeted. At the moment, coming into the rutting season, it'll be the men, because with their increased testosterone they will have dropped their security guard in order to increase their chances of mating. And
and obviously a great sense of sight. They're really good at seeing over those treetops, which is one of their a defense mechanism in a way. So that's another fantastic attribute. The reason why I'm talking about it and getting some of these facts out to you quickly is because I have worked with giraffe for a very long time, and I can tell by the behaviour of him that he's not, he's a bit wary, he's a bit uncomfortable, not with us necessarily, but just with what's going on. He's by himself. There's a bit of a wind. It eliminates some of his ability to hear, or dilutes his ability to hear is probably a better way to say it. So he's keeping his ears open. You can see them swinging around back and forth. But he's a beautiful example of a bull giraffe, folks. And I'll talk about the conservation of giraffes as we're driving, so I don't want to lose this vision. I'd rather talk about the physiology and the anatomy of him whilst he's with us. And really lovely pan, tilt down and up there from Andrew, showing you that sheer size of the animal. Up to 6 meters sometimes have been recorded. I have heard read one recording of nearly on 7 meters, which is about 20 feet. So huge animals, the largest land mammal on the planet, as we all know. And still a ruminant, just like those animals we were talking about before. Buffalo, very efficient digester. And he's I just can't believe how beautiful he is. He's just perfect. That neck, I'm sure most people know this, but just for those that you don't, and if you've just joined us, a little bit of giraffe physiology coming through here, which is really good fun to talk about. And you may have got it even in a Trivial Pursuit question, whoever knows, but it's 7 bones in that neck, same as us, same as mice and most other mammals. I don't want him to get disturbed, so I'm just going to roll back here. At the slightest hint of him running, we'd obviously back off, because I don't want him to feel like we're tracking him. But he's comfortable at the moment enough at this distance. See that fantastic head just sticking out there? That's a great shot. They can't see that neck at the moment. We all know giraffe's neck is very long, but up to 2 meters, about 7 feet long.